that, Mr. Freeman, can you take on the presentation about the upcoming security plans?
Sure, this will actually be very easy. This will be
Okay.
and very quick. This will actually be a two-part kind of discussion here, if you will. So we have started the process of identifying the potential cameras or license plate readers for the area. This is something that we heard immediately in the beginning from a lot of our discussions was about the concern for the increase in pedestrians potentially visiting the areas and the impact to each of the neighborhoods. I'm well aware that right now people are parking in front of many of your houses in order to go into this area. So I think that everyone is looking for this development to help ease a little bit of the burden that you guys have already. So this identifying of LPR locations has taken, frankly, a little bit longer than we anticipated because it involves not only going out and scoping out what is in theory available or accessible. It is also taken into consideration real estate with Georgia Power and with the lighting poles and with the actual wooden poles that are on the streets. And so it's a little bit longer process. But either way, the team has already went out and they have identified the locations that you see there. And they have made a recommendation for two LPRs at the Constitution Road and Boulder Crest Road, pointing in two different directions. One LPR on Old Constitution and Constitution Road, one LPR at Key Road and Woodham Way, and then two LPRs at Key Road and Boulder Drive. And from here, on tomorrow morning at 10:30, we will do another site visit with the Georgia Power team, and we will start to move into a couple of the neighborhoods that are over there. Specifically, Starlight Heights is on the agenda for tomorrow, and we will also move into a couple of others where they will be again identifying what poles are actually possible, and then we will again move forward with after all of these locations have been spec'd out, in which we are confident that by our December meeting, we will be able to come back with a full-on plan for these. We will advance to permitting and installation with Flock. And at that point, we'll be able to talk with each of you all on, again, what does that look like for your respective community, having access to the license plate reads and the data from each of these devices. And so with that, I'm happy to also take any questions.
Well, if you all don't mind, I would like to ask one thing that I see. And first of all, thank you for the consideration and the cameras in place to protect the surrounding neighborhoods. I am curious to know, because there is an impact on the Gates at Boulder Crest as well as East Side Walks community being so close. Is there any investigation going on relative to putting cameras at or near the entrances to those communities? I can see areas where people will cut through.
Yes.
And so I'm curious to know if that can be included.
Yep, it definitely can. And it is on the plan to do. They just kind of started in the center there, and then they've been kind of identifying available inventory on poles, because what I have been educated in this process is that basically Georgia Power, and there's tons of things from the communications perspective and utility work that is on these poles, and so they are very thoughtful about what poles can take an actual device, and so they come up with this whole measuring stick, and they can kind of say, no, this pole already has too much real estate or too much going on there, so they don't have the ability to do that. So in those scenarios, we will be looking at what potential do we have to drop or insert poles there to again accomplish the same goal.
Perfect. Thank you very much for that answer. Are there any additional questions?
I have a quick question.
Who's speaking?
I'm sorry, Amy Taylor.
Thank you.
I always forget, sorry.
I feel like I recognize your voice most of the time, but that time you threw me for a loop.
Sorry. Just real quick, who's going to be responsible for maintaining these cameras, and long after the building is done and things are all in place, and then two years down the road the cameras go out? Who's going to be responsible for taking care of that equipment, making sure it's up and functioning?
Sure.
Decades into the future, what have you?
Yep, thank you, Amy. So each of the cameras will actually come with a full-on maintenance plan from the provider. So when you do these, if you guys have any, if you guys are familiar with, there's a lot of different LPRs out there, a lot of different ways to again put one up. Specifically, the vendor that we are looking at for a lot of these will be Flock, because there is a lease that happens on those devices, and that lease comes with full-on maintenance and care for each of the devices. And so what we will be coming back to you all with is there will be a certain subset of these devices in which will be owned and managed forever, essentially, by the Police Foundation. And then we are considering here for each of the specific neighborhoods around here, we will ultimately come back to you all with a proposal on, we would again pay for the maintenance and the care and the coverage of each of those devices for a certain amount of time.
How does reading these license plates and collecting this data translate to like a community benefit that has been asked for by this committee? Because like it sounds a little bit like they're going to get some cameras that are like the data is going to get turned over to them somehow to do something with, and I just am not really seeing a through line between collecting license plate data and like preventing people from parking on these streets, or if that's really even the concern.
Sure. So the license tag readers, they are actually, again, a big security benefit to the police department. And obviously Deputy Chief Schierbaum can speak a little bit more to this, but throughout our region, there are thousands of license plate readers around. And what they are doing is reading the tags, they're bouncing them against what's called a hot list. That hot list could have a potential person that is wanted. There could be an Amber Alert for a vehicle. There could be a suspect for a murder. There could be any other incident in which their tag has been flagged. And at that point, it sends a notification to the police department that that person has passed that license tag reader. And so I'll ask Chief Schierbaum to comment any further on it. But from my perspective, that would be my answer.
Hello, everyone. This is Darren again. That's correct, Marshall. Whenever we have an interest in locating a vehicle, be it an individual who's wanted for a serious crime, an Alzheimer's patient that may have left home, we place a license plate number in the system. Same thing as we have done. We've asked all of our officers to be on a lookout, a BOLO. Many times it has also been disseminated through our social media. If the vehicle passes, it lets us know the vehicle's in the area. Our officers go to that area to attempt to locate the vehicle. Many times a stolen vehicle is still being used to commit criminal acts. So it's in the best interest of the public that the occupants of that vehicle be stopped and the vehicle be recovered before it can be used for any further criminal activity.
Just to add my 2 cents, this is Allison Clark, to add my 2 cents in terms of a response as somebody who asked that these cameras be an option for the communities, for the surrounding communities. One thing that is of concern to us is any increased crime or presence in the area. And so with us in particular, a lot of us have cameras on our homes, and you may see a particular vehicle, but you don't get a tag number associated with that vehicle. Having these cameras or I believe LPRs, focused just outside of our communities and along the way, if we have some basic information to go off of, it also gives us a way to actually identify the vehicle that may have been associated with whatever may have taken place. So from a community perspective, that's at least my view on one of the reasons that we wanted to see this.